This is Joe,
Michelle,
Melissa,
and Shannon with More Than a Sniff, where we talk about everything dog.
from training to nutrition,
from behavior modification to grooming,
from vet visits to dog parks,
From getting to know us to having guests. Today we're going to talk about...
Hello?
Hi, Jan.
Hi, how's it going?
How are you?
Good.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Great. Thanks for making this happen. And we'll send you the link over when the podcast is posted.
Okay.
So, Jan, tell me a little bit about what you do. I have Michelle and Melissa, myself, and Shannon, who all work for Western States Canine College, and our podcast is on, dogs with jobs. And we're always through training, working with our clients as far as giving your dog a job, and even if you're not heading into a career, but just giving your dog something to work on and do and be successful in homes. And so will you tell me a little bit about what you do and the jobs that your dogs have?
Well, we are a nonprofit organization that responds to any law enforcement agency. So we need to be requested by law enforcement, sheriffs, national parks, some governmental agency. And we respond with certified dogs that are certified in either avalanche, cadaver, air scent, tracking, trailing, or water search.
Okay. And are you, and do you guys, is your organization certify those dogs and the people, or how does that work?
Yes, we have in-house certifications, for all those disciplines, but we also encourage people to get outside certifications. We do a lot of NASAR certifications, tri-state certifications. A lot of us go to different seminars across the country and try to certify to their standards as well.
Gotcha. So what does it look like when you get called out by a governmental agent? What does that work day look like for the dog?
Well, first of all, it's probably a lot of sitting in the back of the truck and anticipating what's going on, because they have no idea what they're in for until we gather the information and get to our search segment and, wait to be deployed, get more information. So the dog's just sitting there, knows that it's going to work, pretty excited, but doesn't know what it's going to be asked of. Most of our dogs are, certified in multiple disciplines, so they can be asked to do a live find versus a cadaver find. So they don't know until we give them that command and get them going what they're going to be doing. But as soon as we do get our search area assigned, a lot of the times we're going to be deployed by helicopters. So our dogs learn how to, load and unload from helicopters safely. We do a lot of training around helicopters, loud, heavy equipment. Our dogs may be asked to go on a chairlift. Our dogs may be asked to go on the back of an ATV. So there's, back of a pickup truck, whatever, to get to our search location. So our dogs need to be comfortable in all those kinds of situations and ready to work and not stressed out by the time they get to their area because of their mode of transportation. Right.
So with the Rocky Mountain Rescue Dogs, do you guys just do Utah, or have you been called out to other rescues in the country?
Our group traditionally has been called out everywhere. We used to be associated with FEMA, but we're no longer associated with FEMA. Some of our dogs from our organization responded to 9/11, Katrina, and that kind of things. But since then, FEMA has developed their own dog criteria, and so we've kind of separated from that. And so we're just we do mainly, wilderness search, that kind of things, not as much disaster anymore.
Gotcha. And so is it stuff that, when you were associated with FEMA, it's all a volunteer-based program?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all volunteer. We all donate our time and our funds to, it's the greatest job that I've never been paid for.
Right. When the organization, when you're looking for, the dogs and the people and handlers that come into or want to do this, what characteristics are you looking for in a dog to be able to perform the duties that you guys are doing?
Primarily, we're looking for a hunt and prey drive, so typically, we look at working dogs, hunting dogs. The things that we're looking at is animal health, their structure, their ability to, work multiple day events. So, they need to have, good, healthy dogs that are physically fit and are capable of doing the work. And that hunt and prey drive, their love of the job, wanting to work and wanting to work for their handler. Those are some of the things that we're looking for. We want them to be very people oriented, very comfortable in all different kinds of situations. Like I mentioned, we're exposing them to all different kinds of surfaces and terrain and, boats and all kinds of, water and things like that the typical pet isn't exposed to all the time. So, we're looking for a dog that's well-rounded, well-balanced, confident, and can, really enjoy the work. That's our main focus as handlers, is getting our dogs to love the job. And therefore, our biggest factor is trying to find what motivates our dogs. So the reward is really important. We want to make sure that our reward for our dog's success is as exciting. And, it's just like anybody. If you're working all day long, you want to work for a paycheck. We want our dogs to work for a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And that has to be enough to where they're going to want to do the job. It's like, hey, you're not paying me enough. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Hi, so this is Melissa. Kind of on those same lines, what is your working dog philosophy?
I don't know that I really have one. I would just say that, it has to be enjoyable, but for both the handler and the dog. We have to enjoy each other. We have to have a trust with each other. We have to rely on each other. We're in some situations where it's scary for them and it's scary for me, and they have to trust me that I'm not going to lead them off a cliff, and I have to be trustful, trust them that, search work is kind of interesting because sometimes we want our dogs to flip us off and say, you're wrong. It's the sense this way, because we as humans have assumptions that, oh, well, they would never go that way. So I'm not going to, you come back here. You're not supposed to go that way because I don't believe that person has gone that way. Well, we want the search dog to say, sorry, Mom, you're wrong. It's this way. And so there's kind of that thing where we don't want total obedience. We have to have selective obedience. We want them to be independent and want to follow up on that sat no matter what. But then again, we do have those safety considerations too, where they do need to be able to, if they're leading themselves into an area that's not safe, we need to be able to stop them and maybe reevaluate on how we can get them to where they need to follow up on that alert or that scent.
Nice. This is Michelle, and I was just wondering, what are some myths and myths of the job that people think that aren't real?
Well, the interesting one that I always thought was that kind of like the bloodhound thing that you see in the movies where the people go into the water and they think that, okay, you're hiding your scent if you walk in the water. Well, that's not really true at all. So dogs can follow scent in water. In fact, we do scent work on bodies of water, and the scent does come through the water. We do locate drowning victims that way. So water is not a detriment to dogs' sense of smell. And a lot of times here in the arid West, water is beneficial to us because it tends to grab scent and hold on to it longer. When we're out in the desert, scent does not stick around as well. It heat makes it evaporate and it goes into the air, and so it's harder for the dog to detect. So therefore, we try to work searches early morning or late afternoons when it's in the heat of summer.
Hi, this is Shannon. I'm curious, what do you think is the most challenging thing about this job?
Reading your dog, trying to, and that comes with years and years of experience, but just reading your dog, being able to tell what your dog is telling you, read what your dog is telling you, whether it's communicated or not. We try to teach our dogs to communicate with us when they found something, but a lot of times in new and stressful situations, the dogs aren't going to give us their trained indication or their trained alert because it's new and they're not certain. And so I need to read my dog's body behavior, my dog's her speed, her animation, her nose position, her tail position. I need to be able to read all those things and trust that something's going on here that I may or may not know, but there's something different going on here, and I need to trust my dog and follow up on those kind of indications, whether they're trained or not. I need to trust her and follow her.
Yeah, I think that's, across the board, just, what you're doing is so fine-tuned and technical, and they're using their fine motor skills. And, in general, with the dogs that we're training and the people that we're training with, it's really such a foreign thing to get people to understand what the dog is communicating to them, and just trusting that they're really communicating in more ways than what we acknowledge. And I think that's such a fascinating thing, that you do have to trust your dog out there, but also know what they're saying as they're going along and doing some of these searches as well.
Correct,
What do you feel like is the most rewarding for you and doing this job with your dog?
Oh, it's the people, the families that we get to help. It's, bringing closure to families. A lot of the situations that we come across are not happy ones, but still people are so appreciative that they have their loved ones back with them. So that's the greatest thing to me, is just trying to reunite families, trying to reunite loved ones. And, just I hate to use the word closure because there's no such thing, but just to have one more piece of the puzzle that they can put into their knowledge bank, and that they know, okay, well, at least this person is home.
So from your experience working very intimately with your dog, is there something that you wish the general public knew or would do with their own dogs?
Oh gosh, lots of things.
Yeah.
First of all, watching your dogs, we do, and being concerned with their health. My dog cannot perform to her greatest ability if she's not hydrated, if she's not comfortable, if she's not, well fed, exercise. All those things play into, your dog's longevity and health. I try to feed the best I can. I try to, do the best vet care I can. I try to, keep my dog as healthy. I exercise with my dog, and I see a lot of, one of my pet peeves is obese dogs. I can't, that's so hard on a dog. And I wish people would take better care of their animal. They seem to think feeding an animal is love, where I feel like less food is love, because the obesity leads to so many health issues for a dog, and they have no control over that if they're going to eat what you feed them. So it's up to us as pet owners and handlers to feed them correctly.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Tell us, is there anything about your job that you don't like or that you could change? You wish you could change?
No, it's all the experience. It's such a rewarding experience, and it's kind of, hurry up, high adrenaline, and then you get to a site and you have to wait and slow down, and kind of frustrating because you want to get out, and get going. Yet, you need to get information. You need to, formulate a plan. You just can't go out haphazard. You need to, and that to me is very frustrating because I get out there and it's like, I want to go, but I can't until we formulate a plan and make sure that we're using our resources to the best of our ability.
Can you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got involved in this world?
Well, I've always loved backpacking and being in the outdoors, and um, I've always taken my dog with me. And I found in Utah a lot of places are closing their doors to dogs because of, abuse and actually a lot of poor pet ownership. So I kind of had this thought, well, if I was a search and rescue person, they couldn't, deny me access with my dog. But then it got to be where I'm so consumed with search and rescue that I don't get to go backpacking like I used to. I see a lot of country
Sure.
now that I never would have before, just on searches, but I don't get to backpack as much as I want to. So I retired and I went to my vet's with a new puppy, and there was a sign on the bulletin board about a search and rescue organization, and I called it and I thought, I'm going to try this, and kind of never looked back. I've been doing this for almost 11 years now, and I've gone through multiple dogs, lots of training, and it's just my passion. I just love it. It's my husband says if you didn't do search work, I can't imagine living with you because I'd be off the wall, because I wouldn't have this passion, this work to do. I feel like my life really has purpose. I feel like I'm giving back to the community, but I'm doing it in a way that I enjoy, and love watching dogs work. They're just so amazing to me, and their abilities are just, every day my dogs amaze me at what they can do, and it's just so fun to watch and be a part of.
So I've got a couple of questions along the lines of what we're talking about. One is that your relationship with your dog, and as you're out there searching, you obviously, there's several different teams out there with you covering as much ground as you can cover and what's accessible. So one, your dog needs to be able to be around other dogs, but stay focused between you and the task at hand. And, something that we find as trainers is that a lot of dogs really could care less about their owners because we push them into social groups that the dogs really could care less about us as owners, because they're naturally going to go to their own species if they're pushed into that situation. So can you tell me a little bit about how you develop that skill in your dog from, being social, being able to sit next to another dog squished in a helicopter, to now we hit the ground and that other dog doesn't matter that we've been traveling with, that we have this job at hand. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you create that connection?
I don't know that we just create it. It's just I've never had an issue with it. My dogs have always been, if I'm searching, I'm searching, and I found that most of my teammates are that way as well. We do much more practice work than we do ever search, because we want to be ready and we want to be prepared, and so we practice that. We will work in adjacent areas, and our dogs know that if they go in to another dog, that's a no-no. They're corrected, back to work, so they really don't, they're too involved with the job at hand to really want to engage with other dogs. They're far more likely to go after another handler than another dog, because our dogs are very people oriented, and we do that because that's what we want them to do. We want them to find people. We don't want them to find dogs.
Right.
And they're much more interested in people, because people give treats. People give me my ball. People, right. So they're more likely to find another hunter or another searcher than they are to find another dog.
Gotcha. And Jen, do you have multiple dogs yourself working, or do you just typically keep one at a time?
I will only work one dog at a time. I do have 2 certified dogs at this moment, but I will only work one at a time, especially because the puppy thinks I'm going to play with.
Sure.
That's all I want to do, and she's just following my old lady, so
Yeah.
it doesn't work. But if she's independent and working on her own, she's going, oh, it's my turn to work. It's my job.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
she's more focused.
Yep. Gotcha. What are some things that you can share with, our listeners and our clients as far as getting in touch with you and what it entails to possibly join, your group and the training that it involves? And then my second question to that is, if we put together a some type of, not necessarily like formal training, but just a seminar for search and rescue dogs of people that are interested. We definitely have a large crew of people that, love the outdoors and really get into training their dogs outside. And is that an option for you guys to do for us as well?
Sure. Absolutely. One of the things that I wish people knew when they're interested in becoming a dog handler for search and rescue is it's an amazing time commitment. We work as a group 1 weekend a month, but that's of course not enough to train your dog for search and rescue. So individually we'll get together with people who are working on similar disciplines, probably, once or twice a week. And then we of course work our dogs individually as well, but it's such a time commitment. Most dogs will not certify for 2 years. It takes 600 to 1,000 hours to get a dog ready for search and rescue. So that's a big, big time commitment, and people don't realize how time consuming this is. It's and it's ongoing because these skills that we teach, we can't just teach in our backyard. We have to teach them in all different environments, in forests and fields and subdivisions, and so it's extremely time consuming. The handler themselves, they need to have first aid and CPR. They need to be in good health. We have physical fitness tests. We as handlers do not want to become the subject of the search, so we want to make sure that our searchers and our dogs are not going to become part of the problem and become the focus of a search themselves. We don't want to take away from what we're doing. But honestly, time commitment is the biggest thing. People don't realize that we're called out all hours. We're on call 24/7. So we could be called in the middle of the night, and people's jobs, are you available to just stop and say, hey, boss, I've got to go, so people who are need to have that kind of relationship with their employment that they can take off at a moment's notice, or so all these kind of things are difficult, and you need to be pretty dedicated to be able to pull it off. So people need to realize that it's a huge time commitment. It's not cheap. We have equipment we need to buy on our own. We're pretty much self-supporting. We have to buy our own way. We do get a few donations to buy maybe big ticket items like GPSs and radios and things like that. But a majority of our equipment we need to purchase and buy ourselves. So it's a time commitment. It's a money commitment that and we don't pick the weather that we're going out in. We search in snow and in rain and heat, so people have to be acclimated to that. Our dogs need to be acclimated to that. It's a stressful job too. There's unhappy endings and tragic things that happen in search and rescue, but overall it is very rewarding. But we just want people to know that there is quite a big downside to this.
So kind of one of our training philosophies is along the lines of how transformative and positive transformation that can be when a dog has a purpose, and kind of how that can kind of change their whole personality. And I was wondering if you had any experience with either what the dog is like on the job versus not on the job, or during the training process. What kind of transformation do you see in your dogs?
Well, not only my dogs, but like teammates' dogs. I've got a teammate who has, she calls them blabs. They're bloodhound lab mixes. But those dogs, they look like lazy, porch dogs. But you put them on a job and they are unstoppable. And you just think, how can this be the same dog? But but my dogs, retrievers, they're very content to, sit in the back of the truck. But when they know that they're getting to a spot, they're off the wall. They go 90 miles an hour. It's just gung ho. But they know, because they have that training opportunity. They know the difference between training and actual missions. They know the difference between training and a walk or a run. But all those things are needed to make my dogs happy. My dogs would not be happy just sitting around all day. They couldn't do it. They need to work. They need to have exercise. They need to use their minds. That's what I think is so great about search and rescue work. They need to use their minds, and it's sometimes that mind game, even though it's not a lot of physical exercise, sometimes some detection work. It just tires them out more than anything else. And nothing's better than a tired dog. They no behavioral problems when the dog's tired, no barking, no nuisance, anything if they're tired. And this gives them, that mental work that tires them out sometimes more than physical work.
So as dog trainers, we're used to using training equipment, and, we talk about that kind of thing on our podcast all the time. But you had mentioned that you have special equipment to do this search and rescue job. Will you tell us a little bit about that and how you use it?
Well, we do use Garmin Astros on all of our dogs. We have GPS collars on our dogs, and with a handheld, so we know where our dogs are in position. And plus, it gives us the ability to track where our dogs have been in an area, so we can give that information to law enforcement. So that's a great tool that we have. My dogs, whenever they're going on a specific discipline, they have different uniforms that they wear. I have a vest that my dogs will work for area work, for cadaver work. They have a big, heavy collar, identifying collar for tracking or trailing. They have a harness, the trailing harness that they put on, and along with different commands, these quote unquote uniforms kind of give them an idea of what they're supposed to be doing. So that is probably about the only equipment I could say. There's a safety equipment that we use. If the train's rough or very abrasive, we'll put booties on the dogs, which sometimes work, sometimes don't. A lot of dogs have issues with their eyes, so they'll wear goggles. But again, mostly safety equipment for our dogs. We have harnesses that we use if we're in a situation where, helicopter will always put a harness on a dog just so that there's more control over the dog just in that situation. Sure. But so we have different uniforms or different equipment that we'll put on the dog depending on what discipline we're working. Like if it's a water, we'll put a flotation device on the dog. Not that the dog needs it; they're good swimmers, but just so that they're more comfortable in the water and they can concentrate on what they're doing rather than swimming.
Gotcha. How often are you guys in general called out in a given month, or 6 months, or a year?
Well, generally over a year, it's 8 to 12 times, but those are different searches, so those might be multiple days.
Yeah.
But generally, and I hate to say it, but with cell phones, GPSs, and that kind of stuff, most searches are for people who have deceased, people who have died. So that's a harder thing to do, but it's really important. I still that it's, again, like I said, bringing that loved one back to their family.
Right. Yeah. I had distant family. He had drowned and they couldn't find his body, and the local authorities had been searching for quite some time, and they had stopped the search, and the family decided that they would call a private couple in that has a bloodhound, and they travel all over for very specific water searches. And so the family paid for this organization to come out, and they ended up finding him, because of the dog. And so I was curious if private organizations come in and can call you and ask for that help.
No, we need to be called out by law enforcement.
Okay.
A lot of times, we don't know what's going on as far as what they've done,
Mm-hmm.
as far as criminality, or, how the search has been, we don't want to duplicate efforts. So a lot of times, families do contact us, and what we say is, great, we'd love to help you, but call the sheriff and have him call us.
Sure.
So if the family does get permission from law enforcement, then we will, of course, report back to law enforcement with our findings, and also the family. But we will not go, as much as it breaks our heart.
Sure.
We want to help, but we can't deploy without law enforcement approval.
Got it. What ways can people get in touch with you guys? Do you have Facebook or Instagram or a website?
We have Facebook and our website, RockyMountainRescueDogs.com.
Okay.
And it's Rocky Mountain Rescue Dogs on Facebook as well. But just feel free to give us a call. Just leave a message and someone will get back to you.
For sure. Thank you so much for your time, Jen. And I will keep you posted when everything is up and going.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.